When we had the time off yesterday, I put into Google Maps VHS Kauppa, and I found a fantastic, I don't know the name now, but there's a fantastic video store in downtown in Tampere that I bought. I bought Power Rangers in Finnish. So,
welcome.
I've already forgot what welcome is. Tervetuloa to our presentation. We're going to talk a little about our collective filmmaking, me and Per. And we showed our feature film debut as director and cinematographer called Places That Were Anime to Me. And some of you, I recognize some faces. I recognize you this Friday at the convention, and we had a really nice Q&A afterwards, and talking about the audience, talking with the audience about the film. So now we're going to talk about generally like making movies on the level we're working at, budget level, but also like the small teams and what our thing is make movies, and also talk about our respective backgrounds, how we came to this moment, traveling to Finland to show our feature film together. And my name is Anders.
My name is Per
Häger Jönson, and Per doesn't have a webpage, but all of his stuff, if you want to check out the stuff he has shot, all of that is linked on my webpage, andershäger.com. And you can also email us if you want to ask any questions about filmmaking. So let's start with me here. Here you see me at 16 in one of the films I will show a clip of next, called The Extremes, a very John Woo kind of Robert Rodriguez Tarantino-inspired action film I made with my cousins small cousins when I was 16. I've always been interested in popular culture in general and film, etc., especially cartoons, like my biggest passion, and genre cinema generally. So I bought a VHS. It's not VHS, but it's high 8, so it's similar analog technology video camera when I was 16, and started to shoot films with it. And then when I graduated, I moved to Stockholm. I'm from Västerås. It's a smaller town, maybe a little bit smaller than Tampere, but like the 6th or 7th biggest city in Sweden. And it's
a classic industry city.
Yeah, classic industry city, like Tampere. It's a classic industry city, so there's not much culture there, and I for you that saw my films, or that like I got to know a lot of people in Stockholm because there were like an anime and manga scene there, and so I moved to Stockholm, and eventually I started to work with not film like specifically, but more of the kind of middle ground, because I'm born in 1983, so around when I was like in my early 20s, the whole revolution with social media and digital content and YouTube, MySpace, Facebook came to fruition, and also what we call in Sweden the manga boom. And you also had we went to secondhand shops yesterday and up there to the flea market, and we saw that Dragon Ball also was released here. But so I guess you had a similar experience in the 2000s.
Probably same distributor.
Yeah. Probably Bonnier Carlsen or Egmont, one of those big Scandinavian publishers. So it was like a scene. I don't have a education in film or media at all. I read other stuff at university, literature, for example. So I come from text from the beginning. Even if I did video stuff when I was a young teenager, my primary focus in my early 20s was writing. I wrote for Swedish magazines about music, pop culture. I wrote for the Swedish anthology Manga Mania. That was a manga anthology. Eventually published some books. So I come mainly from text and from the very specific 2000s middle ground of media, like digital content. When YouTube started to come up, like I worked for a PR firm called Pronto Communication. There was a small PR firm in Stockholm that was a Swedish pioneer when it comes to what we called viral marketing. It's like not traditional TV or advertising, but more like how do we market specific products to, at that time, like specific young audience through working with a lot with the early social media, and then Facebook came, and then pronto, and that viral marketing became a big thing overnight. And at the same time, I also were part of a Swedish media pop culture movement called La Vida Locash. It was a media company run by my good friend Tobias Hansson, and that it was a record company from the beginning. And then we also branched out to TV production. And the reason we could do stuff for, eventually we did a lot of shows for SVT, that's a Swedish version, Swedish equivalent to YLE, public service television. It was that we didn't have any TV experience. We were super young, like 23, 24, 25, around that mid-20s. But we could, that was the same time DV cameras came. And little later, the DSLR cameras came, the Canon 7Ds and the Panasonic Lumixes, that you can shoot in like SD or HD digitally without using like very old, expensive technology like Betacam, for example. So and we could also and we were also 25, so we could work day and night. We didn't have any families. We didn't have any life outside of this. So we actually could compete with the older, more established media and TV companies and do a lot of stuff. We started with the Swedish TV channel ZTV. That's long gone, but it was like a Swedish kind of MTV. ZTV, yeah. A lot of like Swedish media people has started. It was almost in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was almost a joke. It's like, oh, we're gonna move to Stockholm and start doing shows for ZTV. It's like you didn't need any technical skill. It's like you just needed to be a cool hipster, and then you got your own ZTV show. So we started at the tail end of ZTV, and then we made a lot of like primarily youth shows for SVT. Very low budgets, very ambitious, and we could do that because all the reasons I listed. And then I eventually we started doing stuff for YouTube kind of early, and we also did like strategies for SVT, for example, helping them, their educational department, with developing their YouTube channel for young people. But then it came to a no, okay.
Let's watch a fun clip.
Yeah, let's watch a clip of one of the short films I mentioned. I did with my cousins, and I think this was the only film we did in English, because we were inspired by a Swedish film called Evil Ed. It's like a splatter film made by Swedes in English. But we could also I can also do a film in English with my baby cousins playing gangsters. So this is a clip from that film, The Extremes.
Walking with two guns.
Yeah. Keep in mind that I wasn't a kid. I was like 16, and I was already this tall.
I see one target. Where's the money? Oh, I don't know. Pretty dumb answer. Now I talk to you. Let's see. I can start with I think the saw. Saw is my favorite.
Masterful editing.
Yeah, classic film trick. This, like show, like tell, don't show. So I will continue talking a little bit what I'm doing now and what that media career eventually led to. But let's speak. Let my good friend Per speak about his film background.
So, like Anders, I was also crazy about movies, and I didn't have a media career. I'm a computer guy, right? So I work for Paradox Interactive, a game company that some of you may know. It was so funny, as a kid, my aunts were like, "Oh, Per, when are you going to stop with those games and grow up?" Well, I never stopped. But I've been running a movie podcast called Filmmakers in Swedish, though, for more than 10 years. I was doing short movies, just like Anders, in my teens. And now I'm shooting movies with Anders.
On a big Hollywood studio level, as you can see. This is my living room in my apartment in southern Stockholm. That also moonlights as a studio.
Yep. Many scenes have been shot in this living room. Let's show a clip from my teens.
Yeah. Do you remember what film this is from?
It's called The Bus Stop, and it's people waiting for the bus, and then a gangster, played by myself, come and start making trouble.
And this is from Paris, a couple of years older maybe, so this is from like 95 to 96?
Yeah, something like that. And then and then look at the blood here.
This is actually a
splatter.
Cool, that's a cool camera trick, right?
Literally, ketchup, like.
Poor Pat. And as you can see, there's a social aspect of this too. Like guys, like teenage guys from Paris, from a southern Stockholm suburb, and I'm from Västerås, right? I really love working class town. It's like instead of going out like doing bad stuff, we did bad stuff on the screen instead. So that's it saved us from a life of crime and depravity.
I guess so.
Yeah, and then after we had run the media company for a couple of years, we decided to me and my partner that I ran it with, we decided to do something else and to work on our respective passions. So he started like working with plants. He loves like exotic plants, and I wanted to focus more on my more like artistic side of filmmaking.
And this coincided also with myself having a solid day job as a tech guy, I guess, but wanting an outlet for my movie interest. I had a podcast already, but then we met and became friends, and we started filming stuff, music videos, and now features.
Yeah, and it came that Per and Alex, our mutual friend that run the podcast with Per, like they didn't have except the past. Per's short film career in his teens, they didn't have like a traditional film background. And Alex had a kind of acting background with theater, but they always said in the podcast, when we make a movie. So when I stopped working with the media company with La Vida Locas, I called Per and Alex and said like, guys, let's make a movie. I have this gear from our production company that I bought after the company folded. So let's do it. And Per has stuck with me since. And this is 8 years ago, like 2017, I think.
Yeah, 2017. Yeah.
So since then we have done one short together called Asuka Attacks Herself, and that's like an intertextual short film, essay film about Asuka from Neon Genesis Evangelion, and it's based on one my good friend, the now kind of famous Swedish psychologist and writer Tanja Suhinina, who's an anime fan, but primarily known nowadays as a writer on sexual relations. She's also a educated psychologist, and that was around 16-17 minutes long, and it premiered in 2020. And then we've made a lot of music videos together. I counted maybe 10 music videos together. And I also run 2 record labels. Beat the Beat, that's a more hard dance oriented label that I run together with Per and our friend Sean Block, who played at the Neonja party yesterday. And Rocklunda is more like a Swedish pop rock label that I run with my younger brother Kalle J, who's also made the music for our feature film, Places That Were Anime to Me, that we showed this Friday, and that premiered just a month ago. So that's now we're traveling around the world showing this film. Per was in Washington D.C. in the U.S. at Autocon earlier in August, and I was in Norway last week. So let's play a show reel that I've edited together from my more artistic work I've done. This is not like the TV work I did with La Villa Locas, that's a separate show reel, but this is more relevant for what I'm doing with Per, because Per shot like 80% of the stuff that is in this show reel. So you get a sense of my style as a director and Per's style as a cinematographer. And that's from the Asuka film, and that's up on YouTube. So just go to my webpage and you'll be linked from there. But we also work with other filmmakers. I also run a new production company called AHG Production, Give a Reason Video Entertainment. And I have produced a film for our good friend Steph Gaines, who's a Swedish illustrator and comic book artist. Her debut film, as a short film that we did a couple of years ago, and Per was the cinematographer of that. And we also worked on a film together 5 years ago now called Dirty Machines, The End of History, that our friend David Matthew Olson, who's an American director, but who lives in Sweden since 10 years back.
And don't forget, we also built the sets for that. It was a lot of physical manual labor.
The Dirty Machines one, I recommend every one of you who likes science fiction to look this up, because this is probably the film we have worked on together that has gotten the most spread. Maybe it's around 400,000 plays up on YouTube. It got a lot of spread, and it's a really interesting production that was basically like a high budget production, but financed and run by one person. So it's like a third work in the truest sense. And then we have a ongoing working relationship, both me and Per, with our friend Daniel Hållquist, who's like a Swedish micro-budget hero. He makes feature films, pure lengthy films over 1 hour, totally himself, without public funding. He's a father of two, working as a personal assistant in his other time, and then he just does these films totally himself.
So he's very much the level of have a day job, but wants to do stuff.
Yeah. And he has made 4 feature films now. This one was the first we worked on together. It's called Alba Wants New Playmates, and it's an erotic vampire film. And it will premiere this fall, I think. He does the self-distribution method, as I'm going to talk about that a little more next. But and we shot a film. He made a feature now this spring that we worked on, that Per was one of the cinematographers on, and I was the assistant director, second unit director on. So I help him because it's a really small teams he works with. It's 3 or 4 people max, 5 maybe.
But an important thing with Daniel Hållquist is the casting via Facebook groups for miscellaneous things, and then you loop in people. For example, via this we wanted murder scenes. And then some people who work at cowboy camps in Sweden got looped in, who are actually very skilled in stunts. And then suddenly, you have guys who wants to do action and are actually skilled in action, and gradually this kind of community builds up.
And it's interesting, I will talk a little more about Daniel at the end of the presentation, his manifesto for microbudget filmmaking. But the interesting part is the community feeling that there are not, the industry in Sweden is not big when it comes to films. And I guess here in Finland it's also smaller because you have fewer people, right? So, and it's mostly concentrated to Stockholm, and I think maybe it's concentrated to Helsinki here. But there are people out in the country doing stuff. But if you like, people want to do stuff more than they want to earn a living, and it's of course something you have to be careful to not misuse. But if when you are like a driven person and have interesting projects like Daniel, you can get a team for just passionate people that work primarily to get money, more for like, oh, this interesting stuff happening. Mm-hmm. So Dan is a really good example of that. And now we will talk a little about three. If I don't really know if you in the audience, we'll open up the questions later. But what level? Like some of you maybe are maybe just fans of movies. Some of you maybe want to start making movies, or some of you maybe already are filmmakers. But we talk about like three very important aspects of filmmaking. It's like production, and that includes like pre-production and post-production too. Production, financing, and distribution. And for the production side, when you work on our level, I came into the media business, as you heard, not in the traditional way that I went to film school. I came just like, I was a media guy doing media stuff, and then I pivoted more of like to traditional drama filmmaking. The shows we did with La Vida Loca was not like, it was comedy stuff, but it was mostly like comedy documentary stuff. It was not like drama, like actors doing stuff. So I came into it in a different way, and that's the reason that I haven't actually worked at like real sets with real budgets. Our TV stuff, some of that got decent budgets to be TV stuff, but it was still low budget when you compare to other shows for SVT, for example. And now we work on a even lower level budget-wise with Daniel and our own stuff. And the reason we can do that is because we are the gear that's available. Or we shoot almost all the stuff on these like what we call like mirrorless cameras or DSLR.
Yeah. So this is the camera we use for most of the stuff, which is my camera, which is Panasonic Lumix GH5, which the exact model doesn't matter. There are Canon versions, there are Sony versions.
There's a Canon. The Daniel's one is a Canon.
Yeah. But it's commonly called as the prosumer. Yeah. So it's a middle tier between consumer tech and professional tech, but it's available to create like really good looking stuff. Yeah.
And then you learn also that when you shoot with these cameras, it's like the most important part is not the camera. It's called kamerahus in Swedish. It's called camera house.
I guess so.
Yeah. The camera itself. The important part is the lenses you use, and also how you post-produce the footage. Like I do a lot of like hard color grading. It's like using like film lots and stuff. Like because if you don't do that, it looks like it's shot on a phone. But if you know how to color the image, you can get fantastic images out of this camera. And we also use some like vintage lenses, because all of those cameras can basically take whatever camera lens you want to use from the before times if you have an adapter. So that's the reason like it looks good. It's that you know how to shoot it's not the camera itself. It's what lenses you use and how you work with the material after the shoot. And that's the same with the sound. Here's me and our friend Linus. That was one of the cinematographers on Steff's film Hjärnspöken. This is me taking sound, and that was unfortunately a mistake, because the sound was crap on that shoot, and our friend Anders had to save the sound in post. So I will probably not take sound again. That's not my. You have to know, as a director, you have to know a little bit of everything in the process, but that doesn't mean you're good at everything. I know how good sound sounds, but maybe I'm not the one who should sound mix or who should sound record. As I said, that this is from the Asuka film, and this is our friend Mori that plays Asuka. This is
and this is in your living room, right?
Yeah, my living room, and this is from the green image. There is from probably the last shooting day of Daniel's upcoming film we did this summer, and it's cool with green lighting. It was basically just these two very, very small LED lights, and maybe cost €100 that we put a green filter on. No, they had green in them. So there's a lot of cheap camera gear you can buy from import from outside of Europe, so that can give an extra flair to your image.
Yeah, just to say, the red here, it's these lights with a red film in front of them.
They cost €25 for those red and blue films. It's so you can build with not much. You need to have money, and that's the next slide, the financing part. But you don't need a lot of money to make something that's. It's not, the money is not in the gear. The money is in how many people you can hire to do special stuff, and how much you have to do yourself. Because both me and Daniel, we edit our films ourselves, and I did a sound mix for my film, and it sounded good this Friday playing it in the Pianisali, but I've shed a lot of tears about that sound mix. So in next film, I will probably cash out €1,000 or something for a sound mixer. But you can do it yourself with the. And we also I use mainly After Effects for for the Asuka film. There's a lot of special effects and motion graphic stuff, but I edit in a software called Final Cut Pro, and that's a Mac native software, and it's kind of cheap. It maybe costs €400 or €500. You buy it once.
As a comment to that, common right now is to do editing in DaVinci, which is free unless you want high quality material, what should you call it? If you shoot 4K with high color data per pixel, then you need to pay €200 or whatever. But the DaVinci is otherwise free.
And that is also, and we can get technical more in the questions later. But that's also one thing you have to keep in mind. It's shooting high resolution isn't always the best choice. Because you have to also deal with the material. Daniel, for example, the green one here. This film had it 30 or 35 shooting days. So a lot of shooting days it had, over 20. So he has a lot of material. So if he had shot it in 4K, he had to buy. He must buy a second hard drive.
Yeah. Storage is actually no joke. Yeah. So if you're shooting 4K, then you're talking dozens of gigs per 10 minutes or whatever. Yeah.
And that's also one thing that I got to experience post producing my film. That's a lot of it is shot in 4K. Everything that's with the cosplayers and is shot in 4K. So I had to also learn a lot about different codecs and ProRes and stuff like that. So that's also one thing you have to do. If you do your film yourself, or in a big production, you pay someone to do the final QC, as you call it, quality control, for it's a frame here that's wrong, and blah 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 blah. And if you do it on our level, you as a director or a producer, you have to do everything yourself. So make sure that you shoot in a codec and resolution that your gear, your computer and software can handle.
Yeah. A final comment in production. I mean, we could stay here forever.
Yeah.
But me being more on the tech side, shooting and so on, I want to comment on this picture here. Going out in the woods and just shooting, a chase scene or whatever. We've all seen a lot of low-budget movies that are okay, they just went out to the woods and just shot things, which is true, but logistics is no joke. You need to get out water. You want something to sit on between shoots and so on. This is from a short movie we did with Daniel Hållquist, which is just a 5-minute shoot, 5-minute horror movie. We shot it in one day. out in the woods, running around like, oh, yeah, fun stuff. But logistics is no joke. Yeah.
The money you save on not having to pay for location, you if you're not mindful of the things Per says, you can end up spending that on like the logistic parts, like traveling. Is like a lot of people, like I think Daniel has it now, but Per has a driver's license. That's a really plus. He's not only a really good cinematographer, he's also probably the only person I know with a driver's license.
Well, in Stockholm, anyways.
Yeah. I think Daniel, he has a driver's license too, but and I don't drive. So that's also one thing you can have in mind is like choose if you choose a location that everyone can travel to, or then you can put your gear to. So
there's so many things I can talk about just production-wise in terms of photography. But you want a good backpack. You want like a belt where you can store like batteries and stuff.
Yeah.
You want as much as possible on you, so you don't need to like put anything away. Because as soon as you put anything away, you're going to be shooting somewhere else, and then you're 100 meters away from your gear. You want someone to like run back and forth, and so on and so on. Logistics is no joke.
And then when you're out in the woods, you can also like point the cameras like, okay, we can shoot there. And it's like, oh, okay, our gear is there, so we have to go take like 10 minutes break to like take 5 backpacks to another part of behind the camera. So and that I have done that for many times, that you shoot something and it's like you see it in post. It's like, oh, okay, our backpack is there, or a chair is
backpack
there.
in the
like,
background,
or like a cola bottle is there or something. So that's one thing you have to be mindful of. But in the short, I think you have like the right to roam. Do you have that in Finland too? Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you can go out in the forest.
Legally, you're allowed to shoot and roam.
and I don't know, we have the right to roam, and a lot of people don't know this, but we have a right to roam in the cities in Sweden too. Like I've shot stuff or I produce stuff for TV that's shot in Los Angeles and stuff, and it's like that's like Miami. Just that, like, to put down the camera in Miami costs like, I don't know, $4,000 or something. So that's the reason a lot of American films isn't shot in the US anymore. They're shot in Canada.
And for example, if you're shooting in Rome, Italy, like buildings have royalty fees and so on. But in Sweden, you can just go downtown Stockholm and shoot shit.
Yeah, and I think it's the same. It's the same thing as in Finland. That you maybe if you do stuff on TV, you have to be careful to show people's faces. But if you do stuff for like low budget that we do, that gets self-distributed, you have to be mindful, of course, to be a good person. But there's no law that you can't film in a public place in Sweden. But to do this, you can be very, very creative, and it's like, oh, I'm going to do this like this, but you have to get money, because even on our level, it costs money. And one thing I will say before I go through this, the type of the different type of way you can finance a film, is that it's not just when you're not into making movies, you may think that the thing that costs money in a movie is the thing you see on screen. It's like the explosions, the cars, the extras in a big like public scene, and that's true too. But the thing that costs most money is the people behind the camera. Is that you have to give people money or some kind of incentive to be there. And on our level, like Daniel Hållquist, for example, like he has a system that he gives people points in the film. It's like, okay, Anton, our friend, he is the sound technician or he's the script consultant for Daniel's film, and assistant is like, okay, he was present on all these shooting days. He gets this kind of percent of the eventual what you call it, when the film goes plus, the money that comes in after everything is paid. Revenue, yeah. And Per gets a certain percent. You can do it like that way, or you can just keep the wages really low, or you can do a film in like one shooting day, like the horror film we did for it, is like give people lunch. But you have to give people lunch. That's the only thing that you can never keep total zero budget. People have to be fed. They have to have water. They have to like they can't like
and for food and water, money actually adds up pretty quickly. To hundreds of euros if you're shooting several days.
Yeah, and if you're a team of like 6 people, and like 6, I don't know. Yeah, I know now because I've been in Tampere for 2 days. Like a lunch here costs 10 euro or 12 euro, 13 euro. So it's and then you have to have some snacks and stuff. So a shooting day is maybe like 100 euros just for people to be there and to be fed and to be able to do their jobs. And
that's before anyone has been paid for actually doing the stuff that they do. They're just feeding them.
Yeah. So there's no reason that film is one of the most expensive things you can do, and that's one thing you don't maybe realize when you're just a movie fan. But you start to realize really quickly when you want to make movies is that financing finance of film could be very different depending on what kind of film it is or where you and what you want to do. But in both Sweden and Finland, I don't know much about Finnish culture politics, but I know that you have a film institute. This one, I think it's called Svenska Filmfonden in Swedish. But I don't know the level of the money they give out. But in Sweden we have very famously Svenska Filminstitutet, Swedish Film Institute, that was founded in the early 60s by a man called Harry Schein. And he had an idea that a percent of every movie ticket sold in Sweden should go to an institute that then could do like educating about film. They have a cinematheque that you can watch old films. They have a restoration part of the institute that restaurates old films, and they have a movie library. But primarily they're known in Sweden because they co-finance films, and they are the largest financer of films in Sweden. So you can get a lot of money from them. I don't think they don't do 100% financing, so you have to have some kind of other like commercial financing, or maybe there are films that are co-financed by institutes. There are probably films that co-financed
which is where this comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
Co-financers.
Yeah, co-financing. and I guess, for example, I don't know what it's called, the film about the woman growing up in Åland, that was like a super big hit here in Finland. Something Stormskärs Maja or something. That film that was probably, it was a Finnish film, but it was probably co-financed by Swedish Film Institute because it was in Swedish. So that's yes a thing. But there's a lot of like bureaucracy around that. On our level that we work, it's hard to even get a meeting at Swedish Film Institute. Yeah. And the only thing people, if you ask someone over the age of 40 who's like me, I'm 41, who's a filmmaker in Sweden, they can talk 2 hours about Swedish Film Institute and that they don't get any money from them. But if you ask someone who's like under 30 and grew up on like YouTube tutorials and stuff, they probably don't know that the Swedish Film Institute exists. Yeah. So there's a problem.
Kind of the establishment doesn't matter.
No,
it's like getting more and more irrelevant. I mean, it still matters, but it gets more and more irrelevant, kind of. Yeah.
And it's like if you open up like cultural pages in a Swedish newspaper, nowadays there's probably something about the Swedish Film Institute. It's like now they have a new boss, and the last couple of years, it's contrary to what I think in Finland and especially in Norway, it's like Swedes generally don't go see Swedish films in the cinema. So that's a crisis. So there's a lot of stuff about that, and I think the Swedish Film Institute is a really good idea, but you can have you of course have opinions on how they use their money, and I have that, but I'm not going to talk about that now. It's like I have gotten some public financing, not from the Swedish Film Institute, but from the regional institutes, because there is a film politics focusing on regional films, and that's from Swedish Film Institute. You can get a lot of money. You can get like one film now got like 1.7 million euros from them, but from the regional.
But that's like 100% like establishment. Yeah. You need to have gone to the right schools and so on. However, regionally, there are other fundings that you can get.
And I got because we shot a lot of our film in my hometown of Västerås. I got a grant from Film Västmanland, and it was not enough to finance the whole movie. It was like €1,500, and it was probably meant to be for a short film. But since I work on so low budget, it was actually a big part of the budget that I spent not on the actual salaries that Per and Steph, my close collaborators, didn't get, but on the actual money spent. A big percent of that was from my grants. I'm really thankful for that. And you can get, when I did stuff with La Low Cash, we don't own those shows because those shows was 100% financed and commissioned by Swedish Public Television. And I guess it's the same with Yle, that they are a big financer for feature films that they co-finance to get the TV rights, but they also commission shows. But those shows you don't own because they are paid, they own them. So that's the public part of the financing. The other part is the co-financing. I can just say that I didn't put in like Disney or Fox movies here because those big Warner Brothers movies, they are like the only movies that are not co-financed. They're financed by these super big megacorps.
Yeah. Anything else is going to be, a credit list like this.
Yeah.
A lot of co-financing production.
And this is a Finnish film. It's a Finnish director, and it was shot here. But
I saw it in the cinema.
Yeah, we saw it in the cinema.
Yeah.
And it was 10 years ago it came.
Yeah.
And that's I don't really know what he's called like Jarmo, the director. He also made Sisu. That was a big hit a couple of years ago. And this film is like, you see that. It's like a European film you can almost never finance yourself. If it's on this level, you're going to have Samuel Jackson, you're going to have explosions, you need money, and you get the money from 10 other production companies.
It's like 5 minutes of credits before you get to the movie.
So you see, like now when you see movies, especially Finnish movies and like other European films, not like Batman versus Superman or Avengers and stuff, they are like owned and financed by Disney and Warner Brothers. But when you see like a Finnish film now, look in the beginning how many production company shingles there are, and look especially in the credits how many logos from like blah 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 Film Commission, blah 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 Film Institute. It's like or TV channels. So that's also one thing you do. You get production companies to co-finance your film, and then you get deals with distributors before you make the film. So you pre-sell. That's one big really important part of like independent movie financing is that you sell the rights to show the film before the film is done. And then we have the bracket that me and Per and Daniel Hållquist works in, the micro budget bracket, self-finance,
and the Milligan tier of movies.
And Andy Milligan, I love this expression. It's not. I think it was a journalist after Andy Milligan's death that coined it, gutter auteur. Like auteur is like a really famous French word in the 60s for like the director as a singular voice, like an artist. But gutter is the gutter. so Andy Milligan, who was a really specific filmmaker in the 60s and 70s in the US, he made these like super low budget gritty films, but they were super ambitious. So he was kind of like a gutter auteur. Like he was like a big artist on a super low micro budget level. And nowadays we have guys like Dennis Reed and the filmmakers in Detroit and Houston and other American middle-sized cities that do films primarily for a young or African American audience. And they make the films really cheap, like 7-8 days for, I don't know, like thousands of dollars. They make the films, and they
food money for the crew, basically.
For the crew. And and I heard an interview with Dennis, and he said that like he never got external financing. I think he was like a restaurateur or something. He'd owned restaurants and clubs, and he invested that money into a filmmaking business. And those films are like, they are crude acting wise, they are crude like technical, but they work, and they work because they are niched on audience. Like he don't need the films to be shown by the cinemas. He doesn't need the films to be shown in Finkino or Filmstaden as we have in Sweden. Like he just needed for an audience that will watch it on Tubi. That's an American streaming service that's not available here yet, but that's
just VPN.
Yeah, just with VPN. You can watch Tubi with VPN, and it's basically it's free movies, and you get like 3 or 4 ad pauses in the film, and that way guys like Dennis and those kind of filmmakers can earn a profit making movies, not having to rely on. In the US, there is no film institute, there is no public financing. Not to have to rely on like risk capitalist financing their film. They can like
investors.
Yeah, they can do like a film for their own money, and hopefully it will pay back their film the money the budget in due time, so they can make a new one, and then they can own the catalog. Because that's super important nowadays. The new way of self-distribution, it allows the filmmakers and the producers to own the catalog. Because if you do a film for SVT, as example, or a show, I don't own these shows. I own
all of the stuff you did, for example, during your media career, making educational programs for the Swedish public television. That's all done.
That's all.
You don't own a single krona from that.
I don't get any residuals. I can't put it up on YouTube. I don't own the rights to show it. It's 100% SVT or ZTV or those. But Dennis and those guys and Daniel, we own the films 100% because nobody has invested in them. It's our own money. So the way you do on this level is like. Hopefully you can build a catalog. It's the same with music business that nowadays that the artist can release their own on their own labels, for example. It's more common in the music business, but it starts to get more common in the film business too.
And this is actually like a point of discussion. Both me and Anders agree on you should try to own the back end, as it's called, like own your catalog. But there is the other perspective on it. There is the opinion that forget about the back end. You will never see it. Just get funding for shooting and then shoot again. I just wanted to mention that there is that view in terms of distribution as well. But now, music and movies, our opinion is try to own your catalog forever. Because in 10 years, suddenly something blows up. And then you want to own it. You don't want SVT to own it.
No. Think about. It's easier to get an example from the music business. But all of you know Karamelldansen, for example. It was played like 4 times yesterday on the rave. Karamelldansen. It's a song from a Swedish band called Karamell, and they're partly from my hometown of Västerås. And I don't actually know who owns the song Karamelldansen, but if there was a label, like those guys get a little bit of royalties because there was a songwriter. But if they had owned that master, because nobody knew that it was going to be a big hit.
That song became a thing because an American guy called Speedy Cake made a remix of it, and then someone made like a video with the whole dance thing. Then it became a thing. It was an old song already.
Old album cut. It was never released as a single. So that's why things can happen on the internet. Like things can so own your catalog. But the only reason you can do that is like if you also settle for when you're going back to the production side, you settle for a low budget level because our films doesn't look like the films in the cinema, and Dennis and those guys' films doesn't look like the films in the cinema. But they work. They are films, but they are not like on the level that films financed by the Svenska Filminstitutet are. So when it comes to distribution, you can do the route with a Finkino, like but you can't do it yourself. You have to do it through a distributor, and then you have to sell the rights, and maybe you never get any money. You just get the money you got.
You get the lunch money.
Yeah, you get the lunch money. You get the money back, but you never get any royalties because they have to. They do in in the US they call it Hollywood accounting.
Hollywood accounting.
It means that a film never gets. Because it works like this. Like I make a film, if I sell it to a distributor like Svensk Film Industry or I don't know any Finnish distributors, but if I sell it to them and they give it a DVD release or a wide cinema release, they will get me. They will buy it from me from a sum, but I will also in my contract get a percent of the money it earns. So say
the back end, so called. Yeah.
Say it earns 100,000 euros on the cinema circuit. In my contract, maybe I will get 20,000 of them. But as it works, as a lot of low-budget filmmakers have testament to, it's like you never see that money.
Yeah, you'll never see the back end because often distributors go bankrupt a lot, because distributors are a bunch of rascals, or what should you call it?
It's business. It's every business. I don't think it's the film business itself. I think every business is business, and their business is to earn money. And of course, like I don't know. Like it's not illegal because you have written a contract, but it's a hope. Like a lot of could say that. For example, one of my role models is Adam Green, who made a Hatchet film series, and he also has a podcast called The Movie Crypt, and he's super transparent of his journey into filmmaking, and he says that he made a Hatchet film that's like a kind of like mid-budget slasher films, and
out in the desert instead of the woods.
Yeah, it's a swamp.
Swamp. Yeah,
and he made 4 of them. I think he produced 4 and he directed 3 of them. And he said and there are action figures, and and there are like comic books, and a lot of tie-ins. And those films, like obviously they made 4 of them, but the budgets have become increasingly, decreasingly low with the number of sequels. And he says like he didn't earn anything of that. Like I think he has a deal with the character, but so he gets money from like people doing merchandise and stuff. I think so, but with the actual films that had obviously they have earned money because they wanted to make sequels, but he hasn't seen any residuals from it. So that's an example of that. Why the reason people self-distribute more.
Sorry for more dry money talk, but game distribution is kind of similar like this, in that if I'm in the basement and I make a game. If I put it on, Steam, no one will see it. I go to a distributor, like Perolus Interactive. they have the brand recognition, and they're gonna push it, right? But there's this thing called recoup. So if Paradox agrees to distribute my basement game, they will say like, yes, we will do this. And this game will sell, right? Because Paradox is such a big name. But in the contract, 100% guaranteed, there will be the thing called recoup. And this is then with movies, which is like, let's say, the first 100,000 euros goes only to the distributor. And the recoup has to do with like marketing. Part of the so-called recoup thing is like, we have a marketing budget here. And since we are paying for marketing, we take everything like up until a point. And a lot of movie makers and a lot of game producers actually get kind of screwed over in this, the so-called recoup cost, in that they sit in the basement, make a game for 5 years, and they then don't get a single penny despite the game actually selling okay. Because in the contract, it's that like 100,000 euro recoup, and then it's all gone, from distributor.
And that's, as I said, that's one of the reasons people want to look into self-distributing. But the main reason is that you actually can do it now, except like maybe 10 years ago you couldn't do it.
You were reliant on distributors, but now there is self-distribution, of course.
And you can do it either through there is some platforms. There are in the music there is DistroKid and Aval and all those companies, and in film there is a company called Film Hub, for example, and there's also Indie Rights. It's like also they are a distributor, but they're basically more like a technical service that makes you hopefully you can end up on Tubi and Plex and all of those. There aren't many in available in Scandinavia yet. I think Plex is available for just streaming, free streaming, and you can get your films on that and earn a % of the ad revenue. But the thing is that just to be real talk is that when you do that, it's like a regular. That, like Per said, the marketing is also in your hands, because what the distributors have is that they have they don't only have a distribution chain, is that they can get your film into Filmkino or
they have the brand recognition as well.
Yeah, they have brand recognition, and they also have like a relationship with PR firms. So for example, like you can do your own stuff, but it's really hard to get your films reviewed or get written about in the media and stuff, and all of that is the work of the distributor. So when you self-distribute, it helps to already have a following or a niche audience.
Building a fan base is very good, but it's not easy, obviously.
No, it's not easy, especially when you have to do a film also yourself. So that's the just to because everyone can talk about you can self-distribute. It's better. Fuck the distributors. You can do it yourself. It's like yeah, but nobody would know about your film. Yeah. You will like this, for example. I've chose to self-distribute my film, and it's not mainly because of the films we have talked about earlier. Now it's like it's also that I can't legally distribute my film because it's a lot of anime material in it, a lot of IP. So you have to clear that before you get sell it to a distributor. A distributor wouldn't buy my places that were anime to me film if I can't show to them that I have a contract with regarding every film clip and music clip that's in the film. So even if I wanted to find a distributor, this project is not the one to do it with. So I chose to self-distribute, and I'm not even gonna get it into those Tubi and Plex platforms, because you also need to have the contracts ready for to show to the Film Hub and all those aggregators to get it up there. And that's also one thing I will add. When you work with actors on this level and also team, make sure to have a contract with them. Yeah, a release form. That because if you just you shoot with your friends or people or people who want to be actors, maybe in 2 years when the film is finished, they think it's embarrassing. It's like, can you take down that film?
Yeah, which has happened. One of the music videos from the showreel that Anders showed, it turned out that the beat wasn't cleared by the guy who made the song, and he just took down the video, and we were like, what the hell? It's a cool video. We want to be able to show it to people.
We worked on it for 3 weeks, so it's like that's also one level. That's also one thing. Yeah, we have 15 minutes left now, so we will go to our. I just must say that this is images from the premiere at Tracon, and this is images from when I showed it in Norway for 6 people, and that's you have to hustle. You have to show the film. Maybe it's 74 people like it's Tracon, but next screening it will be 1 person. So and this
a wall of text here.
Yeah, wall of text. We're gonna go into. But this is our friend Daniel, and he actually wrote a manifesto a couple of weeks back that I recommend to all of you to read. It's really interesting because it's he's really sobering, talking about making films. It will not make you rich. It will not make you famous because you don't have a distributor. You will probably never not get into festivals either if you don't have a distributor.
I think I relate with from the technical side in shooting is number 4 here. In making a movie, things will go wrong often. It's like a series of accidents that makes a movie.
Yeah, and also as I said, it's it will cost you money, it will cost you time, it will not get you famous, it will not get you, like I said, the money you get from a film working on this level is necessarily not from the money the film earns. It's more from okay, I have made a feature film now, so I can apply for arts grants that I couldn't apply before I was a feature filmmaker. It's more of the status, and that's another whole other presentation I can have. It's like how to earn a living as a cultural worker, because I do this full time. I have a part-time job, like working like some hours every other month, but I try to do like music and film as my job, and I have succeeded to do it in like over like 15 years. So, but it's a struggle. But having like working your way up, it's not necessary that the job you do gives like real money, but it gives you like it puts you up on another level, and then you can work on another level. So it's a quite intricate way. But read Daniel's manifesto, and now we have 15 minutes for questions.
Yeah. Kind of hurt so much to just gloss over the production side, because there's so many details that I could talk about.
I had a couple of questions. So what's like a successful indie release to you? And if not, it's not all about the money. What's like a general idea when you're done your self-distribute? What happens then? You're also platform or not?
I think it has two answers from my point. First off, with my film now, the places that were animated to me, for me it's already successful, because like for me it was a super personal story that I wanted to tell. I wanted to test myself if I were able.
You needed to get it out of your system, basically.
On like a story level, I needed to get the story out of my system, so I could like say that okay, I have told my story. But I also wanted to test, like, okay, on the level I am with the team I have, with the knowledge I have, could I make a feature film myself? Like, is Per like on the level enough that he can shoot a feature film? And now you have shot like three features, so now he is on a, and am I on the level that I can produce, because I also produced it. I also did all the financial stuff in it. And so that's like the success for me is like the film was finished, I showed it to people, and even if everyone had like tapped me on the head and said, "Oh, good, Anders, you made it," I would have been satisfied. But now I actually got to have great conversations with people. My closest collaborators on the film is our friends Steph and Per. Steph was the assistant director. They have told me like, "Oh, this was such a fun project," and it's like we had fun together making it. So that's a success for me. But when it comes to more like,
if I can interject, if we're looking for like examples of homemade movies that were successful, that me and Anders can kind of like sign under, like that we like. Yeah. There's a movie maker called Bueno in Japan, who is a photographer in porn. And he has made two movies, one called Gun Caliber and Strega. He's like a tokusatsu nerd, Power Rangers nerd. And he's a pervert.
And he's a gaijin.
He's not Japanese.
He's from Canada, so he's an immigrant too.
So he makes movies on this tier. His day job is shooting porn, and on his free time he makes these what's it called? It's tokusatsu Power Rangers kind of movies with a bunch of nudity and stuff.
Adult.
But it's clear, like just out in the street shooting stuff, and I would say like well made. Like especially Strega, I think was funny and well made.
So this Bueno, there's also this American guy from Pittsburgh called Steve Rudzinski he has made a trilogy of films called the Carousel films. That's about a carousel horse killing people, and he makes like one or two films every year, and they are like super low budget. Like he and his wife almost always stars in them, and they produce them together, and they are probably like on the budget level, and they are like really shot with like probably the same camera we shoot with.
And since we are on this tier, we are obsessed with this tier, of course.
And there's also one super big, maybe, thank you, Per, for making me think of this. One super big tip for all you guys is that if you're working on this level, you can of course admire Tarkovsky or Avengers or Star Wars. It could be your favorite film.
Your Tarantino and Scorsese, etc., etc. We do like the high level,
But you can, but you have to. You cannot aim to make your film look like this. You have to find the people doing the same things now. And there's also Daniel Hållquist who told us that it's like everybody talks about those old low budget guys. Like there was this Spanish guy called Jesus Franco who made like 10 films a year in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and there is Andy Milligan. But he said that you can't compare to those guys because they had, or John Waters is a hero of mine.
Yeah, or Plan 9 from Outer Space, you know, Ed Wood, the seemingly worst movie of all time. That movie is shot in a set. Yeah. We can't afford a set.
With film. And all of those guys also shot on film.
Yeah.
They cost a lot of money. So the John Waters films, that's like Pink Flamingos, like, they were low budget for the time, but compared to a Steve Rudzinski film, they were like Citizen Kane. Or like
the Citizen Kane of homemade movies.
Or like Storm Crash Maya. So you have to find peers and role models among those doing the same thing as you do now. So it was that. So the success is like, but talking about, there is a really, really good podcast that you should listen to called Just Screen It.
Yeah, that talks about self-distribution and this kind of low-budget production. There are a lot of varying stories in that podcast. It's really good if you're interested in the business side of low-budget movies.
But for someone as Steve Rudzinski, as I mentioned, like, I think all of his films, they go plus, but they do it like he travels around to a lot of conventions and festivals, and he has a table, he sells them on DVD, and he also has a Patreon. So I think he works with it, but it's like he also maybe lives in a cheap house and stuff. So it is like you can make a living of it, but don't expect to make you a millionaire. You could, like, it could happen with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, for example. That was made on maybe this level, a little bit higher, but and it earned a lot of money. But it's 1 in 1,000. There is like 1,000 Buenos and Steve Rudzinski and Paul Ragsdale on every Winnie the Pooh.
Okay. We're babbling now.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah. We have 10 minutes left.
5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I actually have a follow-up.
Yeah.
And you brought it up almost up there with the Winnie the Pooh thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but I'll say that there's maybe a little bit of an indie boom on that horror side in the US right now with that movie and others like it.
Yeah.
And possibly otherwise as well. Is there a way for sort of Nordic filmmakers like yourself maybe to break into that?
Horror is a great genre because you don't need a lot of money, and there's actually a big audience for horror. Things to... No,
I think that's the easiest genre to work on this level, and that's also what most people on this budget level do. Is make a horror movie, like a slasher kind of film,
out in the woods, do some stuff.
but the competition is higher. But when you take like Winnie the Pooh kind of stuff, or they as you said, they have done it with the Grinch and all of those
public domain characters. Exactly.
So you compete with 500 other slashers, but when you have a niche genre like Bueno, for example, making like adult Power Rangers films, there are not much adult Power Rangers films being made. So then he can like potentially find a smaller audience, but it's
more of a not guaranteed audience, but it's like people like me and Anders. It's like jumping on that, like, holy shit, there's someone doing adult Power Rangers.
And it's the same with what language you should shoot on. Like we have probably my next film will be in English because it's easier to spread all over the world. But for Daniel, for example, his 2 films are in Swedish now so they will automatically get some kind of attention in Sweden because there is not much horror on this level been done in Sweden.
Like the vampire horror movie and the upcoming kind of conspiracy horror movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone in Sweden has done like a conspiracy theme movie like this before. So it's aiming for a niche.
Yeah, so it will get automatic attention because it's in Swedish, but that will also limit the possibility for it to be spread around the world. It's the same with you guys doing films in Finnish. So that's a really good question.
Yeah, and Finland, in my opinion, has been better than Sweden in this, in terms of like, you got the Santa Claus movie, whatever that its name.
Rare Exports?
Rare Exports.
I think it's the Big Game and Sisu Guy.
Oh, yeah, it is. And also like Jade Warrior, like a co-production between Finland and Hong Kong. Am I the only one who has seen this?
No, I think it's 20 years old. But it's like those experiments, and I think that's a good thing. Like, don't be shy to tell your story, to do what you do, because there is a niche for everything. And don't aim to because you can also get opportunistic to say like, if I do my film in Finnish, like nobody will see it, I have to do like a slasher film. But it's like, it's hard to be optimistic when you know how much work this is. Like, if you don't do it generally, you're never going to finish the film.
If you want to make a slasher film, make it, but don't make one just because.
No, exactly. Any other questions? You can take questions. We will stay around a little bit, so if you want to ask us...
But for the room, we need to clear out.
Yeah.
For the next presentation.
Thank you very much.
Can you recommend some good sound editing platforms? Because I was trying to edit this music video, and I had to edit the sound, and there was a lot of noise, and I couldn't really cancel it well. So is there any good free options?
So like plugins for cleaning sound, kind of. Yeah.
Like mixing and putting it together.
Yeah.
There are I use the built-in sound editor in a sound mixer in Final Cut Pro. What Final Cut Pro? But it's a video editing software. But they have kind of good, because it's Apple, right? So they have the same mixing software as that's built into Logic, for example.
But sound editing is hard though. At the end, it's gonna be like Reaper or Ableton Live or something like that.
Audacity.
Audacity with like advanced plugins and so on. I'm sorry, I can't give a good, easy answer to this other than like time to go to the YouTube and how to, edit out hisses, for example, in speech and so on. Sound editing is hard.
But what editing software did you use for the music video?
CapCut.
Is it free?
Yeah, I only used that because I didn't find any other good ones. I think I used, what was it, Audacity or Logic something, when I recorded the sounds in a library, but then after that I just used CapCut to put it together because I didn't know what else to use, because it's hard to find anything for free. It's something which is easy to use.
I'm sorry, we can't give an easy answer.
But I can say Final Cut Pro as a video editing software, it's not free. I think you can use it for a month, so you can probably manage to do a music video in it before the tutorial expires. But that I think their sound editing options are not like on a professional Hollywood level, but they are good.
Decent.
They're decent, and they also have nowadays they have a kind of advanced noise cancelling AI function. So I can recommend that.
Yeah, we are done now. We need
to clear out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.